Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. My name is Adrielle, and I am currently narrating a story of my life dating back from January 2016. In the previous episode, I talked about the month of May 2020, and in this episode, I am going to start off with the month of June 2020. So here it goes. So, before I start off in the month of June, there is something I do want to talk about, and it's actually concerning Ruth, right? Okay, so a little rewind. January 2020, when I was living in Douglas, I remember feeling like these spikes in my body. Remember just feeling these spikes in my body, and I didn't know what it was. Anyways, fast forward to the February, I move in with Ruth. So I move in with her, and this is probably like the end of February. I remember telling her that, hey, I'm feeling these spikes in my body. I remember telling her that I'm feeling these spikes in my body, and I don't know where it's coming from. Like, I just don't get it, right? So she tells me that she has a friend that's in the last semester of med school, right? Her friend's in the last semester of med school and she wants to call her. So she's like, let me call her and she can probably figure out what's going on with you. So she FaceTimes a friend. The friend picks up. She basically tells her friend, like, hey, I have a friend who is feeling like she's having these spikes in her body, like her body's like pinching her. Do you know what's going on? As a matter of fact, let me pass the phone to her. So she passed the phone to me, and I tell this friend, now for the sake of the story, we're going to call this friend friend A, right? We're going to call this friend friend A. So she passes the phone to me. I tell friend A that, hey, I'm feeling these spikes in my body. I don't know what's going on with me. And then she tells me, well, do you take vitamins? And at that point, I had stopped taking the vitamins that I was taking because I felt like I was kind of reacting to it or whatever. So I told her I stopped taking the vitamins that I was taking. Then she's like, okay, do you drink Gatorade? Do you take like some type of energy, whatever? And I said, no. And then she said, okay, probably you're low on electrolytes. You need to pump on that, right? Now, here's the thing, y'all. I'm sorry. Here's the thing. As the conversation was going, I just didn't like her demeanor. Now, even though she was giving me sound advice, her demeanor was not there. Like, it wasn't. Um, it seemed like she didn't want to talk to me, right? Basically, she didn't want to talk to me. Her demeanor was like, are you taking vitamins? Okay, so you're probably low on electrolytes. It's kind of like she didn't want to talk to me, right? So I kind of felt, I won't say I kind of felt some type of way, but I felt her energy. I felt her energy and I listened to everything that she said. I said, thank you. I'm going to, take on your recommendations. And I passed the phone back to Ruth and they kind of were talking a little bit, right? So what ended up happening is that I decided to go and take supplements. Actually, I changed my multivitamin supplement and I did get Gatorade and I was better. So she was actually right. I was low on electrolytes. Now, moving forward, like probably March and April, anytime friend A, and there's another friend, friend B, anytime they would call Ruth on the phone, they would be on FaceTime. Friend A would always ask about me, right? So she would say, oh, Ruth, what's your friend's name again? Yeah, where is she from again? Like she would always ask about me. So in my mind, I'm thinking she's asking about me because of our conversation back in February. She probably wanted to know how I was doing. Then it got to a point where they would always tell Ruth that they wanted to drive down to Atlanta and stay with her, right? Because the whole vid situation was going on. So they wanted to seize that opportunity to visit Ruth. Ruth would always tell them no, that she has the semester that she's trying to finish up. She's trying to study for finals. It got to a point where Ruth told them that, hey, my friend is staying with me and there's not enough space, right? And then I remember there was one time hearing her talk with them, and she said, you guys, she's going through certain things. So I'm like, okay, maybe, she's just trying to explain why she's not letting them visit her because of the space that she had. Um, Mind you, all this information that I'm getting about these conversations, Ruth is not telling me. I'm overhearing it on their FaceTime calls while I'm at Ruth's bedroom. So time goes by and I can still hear this girl, friend A, like always ask about me. So now at this point, I'm like, it's kind of like annoying because why does she keep asking about me? So I wanted to point that out because this does come back in the month of July. And yeah. So another thing I forgot to mention back in my research episodes concerning Caitlin, I forgot to mention that in the month of November 2019, Ruth and her best friend and Lily, they all moved into a townhouse. They moved into a townhouse. They were renting that townhouse. I do think it's important for me to mention that because Caitlin and Lily's living situation plays its own special part in the story. Okay, so now we can really get into the month of June. So it's June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and I am battling low self esteem, y'all. And I'm going to tell you why. The reason why I was battling with low self esteem was because at the end of May, I started to, really pay attention to Brandon's Instagram. I started to notice people he was following. He started following a lot of women, and that was getting to me. But there was one girl in particular that he followed who he had followed in the past. And I noticed his interactions with this girl was anytime she would tweet something or post something, he would be in her comment section. He would be in her Twitter feed. Um, so when I saw that he followed her again after he unfollowed her, probably back in 2019, it really got to me. I was triggered. I was really, really triggered. And I got into my emotions and low self esteem set in again. This whole thing of me not being pretty enough, me not, it just started to really get into my mind. Got into my mind. There was one night I was sleeping and I was really thinking about it. Then it felt like the Lord just put First Peter 3, verses 3 to 5 through my mind. And I'm gonna read it to you. It says, don't be concerned about the outward beauty of fancy hairstyles, expensive jewelry, or beautiful clothes. You should clothe yourselves instead with the beauty that comes from within, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is so precious to God. This is how the holy women of old made themselves beautiful. They put their trust in God and accepted the authority of their husbands. So that verse or those verses really was in my mind. I read it and I thought about it. I'm like, man, why am I so consumed with the aesthetics? Because in the marriage, aesthetics is not going to hold it down. So I don't, I was just triggered. I just had to remember that unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, that is something that the Lord has given me. I just had to remember that. And also I told myself, like, Adrian, who told you you're not fly? Like, who told you? Like, okay. Who told you you don't look good? Stop feeding yourself with negative thoughts. So that was what happened in the beginning. Well, like the first couple of days of June. June 7th. June 7th, 2020. That was the 2-year anniversary of knowing about Brandon. I'm like, wow, it's been 2 years. 2 years and nothing has happened. 2 years. Yeah, I was like 2 years. But it got me thinking, y'all. I really got to thinking. I noticed that there was a pattern in my life at that point for 5 years. So June 2015, I bought my car. June 2016, that was when I flunked the GMAT. June 2017, that was when I flew to Atlanta for the first time and I secured my apartment. June 2018, I got the revelation of Brandon being my husband. June 2019, I found out about Caitlin. So in my head, I'm like, it's June 2020. What's going to happen? So now I'm on the lookout for, okay, something's going to happen. I don't know. I might meet Brandon. I'm just like looking out for a sign or something. Okay. So as I'm looking for signs, I'm still staying at Roots Apartment, still believing for a job, still believing for an apartment, still believing for a miracle to happen because I need to get my own place. Okay. So as I was staying at Roots Place, there were things in her apartment that were happening. So out of nowhere in her apartment, there would be like water coming out. And I remember, telling her about it and cleaning it up because she wasn't around. She wasn't at home when it happened. And she told me, like, yeah, it's happened before that all she has to do is call the maintenance and they will get it cleared, right? But I noticed that it just kept on happening to the point where it was really affecting the flooring. So she had put on this like urgent maintenance request for maintenance to come and figure out the situation because it was really getting bad, right? So that was going on at Roots Place. As far as my dental procedure was concerned, because of the whole vid, they were not taking any patients into the office for the months of like March, like I think, yeah, March, April, May. But June was the month that they started bringing people back into the office. So I go for my first appointment, since quarantine, right? I go for my first appointment. Now, mind you, I have not been making any payment. So I get there and I'm like, oh my God, I hope they don't ask me. I hope they don't ask me. I hope they don't ask me. So I get there, they, tighten my braces, they give me more elastics. And as I'm leaving the dental office, the lady at the front desk says, yeah, Adrielle, we haven't received a payment. I said, oh, you know what? I was really trying with the website and it just seemed like it was giving me a hard time. I just gave some bogus excuse. She's like, well, you owe, it was over $1,000 at that point. Yeah. So she told me how much I owed. And then she was like, hey, just give me your card on file. We will process the payment um, in the office. And I was like, oh, snap. I was like, what am I going to do? So I gave her my card. Yeah, I didn't have any money. And what I mean, I didn't have any money. I mean, I probably had like $100 or so or whatever, right? So I fill out the form, put my card information, and then I leave. I was like, okay, I'm out. The next time I got to deal with them is my next visit. So I leave. I get a text probably like 20 minutes later that the payment didn't go through. I was like, oh, okay. She's like, hey, just come back. Like you can just come back. If you're not far, you can just come back and can just give us a new card information. I was like, oh. So that was when I said, you know what? Is it possible for me to have a payment plan? And then she said, when do you want to start making payments? And then I think I told her beginning of July. Yes. I think I either told her the end of June. No, I told her July 1st. Yes. So I told her July 1st was when I wanted to start making payments. So she said, okay. So they broke the payments into four. And I think each one of them was like two something. No, each one of them was like three something or four something, one of the two. And she's like, okay, we will process your payments July 1st. So I was like, okay, cool. I have, at this point, it was like, this was June 12th. I was like, okay, I have 18 days to figure out how I'm going to pay this bill. So that was that. June 16, y'all. June 16. I had my devotion. Um, I was in the living room having my devotion time. Now at this time, Ruth was doing some type of internship with her program, so she wasn't home like in the morning and afternoon. So I'm in the living room doing devotion, and I am crying. And I think the main reason why I was crying was because I was really triggered about what happened with my orthodontist. And I was just like, how long, Lord? How long do I have to wait? Why am I still here? Why don't I have a job yet? Mind you, it had been over a year since I graduated Georgia State. I remember just crying. And the scripture that came to my mind was Proverbs 13:12. And I probably was reading the scripture. That was why it came to my mind. But Proverbs 13:12 says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. Yo, I felt like every month since I graduated, I was hoping to get a job. I was hoping for my situation to change, and it didn't. And at this point, I really was feeling that my hope was deferred. So I'm like, God, where are you? What is going on? I'm crying out, Lord, give me a sign. Like there has to be some type of change. I was just like, I was really in that living room crying, bawling. Oh my goodness, y'all. It was a lot, right? It was a whole lot. Later on in the evening, Ruth gets back home. And she gets back home. She's in the kitchen. I'm sitting in the couch, probably going through like emails and stuff like that on my laptop. She says to me, she says, "Oh, yeah, Adriel, I wanted to ask you, how is the job search going?" And so I was like, I'm like, I'm applying to jobs. I'm not really hearing back from anyone. And the ones that I am hearing back from, I'm getting denied. So by this time, she's out of the kitchen and sitting on the couch. And I'm just telling her about the job thing. And I said, "Oh, why did you ask?" So she said, yeah, the reason why I'm asking is because, school's about to start soon and I just wanted to have my own space." Now, in my head, I'm like, school's about to start soon. It is June 16. School doesn't start until August, like the third week in August. So, in the next 2 months. So, in my head, I'm thinking, did her school change the resumption date? Like, because what does she mean that school's about to start soon? Start soon. So, she started asking me about jobs. She said, "Hey, have you done this? Have you done that?" I said, "Yeah, like I've done that." The next thing you know, she starts. I wouldn't say she was aggressive, but the tone wasn't really friendly. She was saying, you got to do this, you got to do that. Like you got to be on top of this. You have to be aggressive research. You got to look at all these recruiters. You have to you And here's the thing about me, y'all. I do not like being sunned. Now, if you may ask, what does it mean to be sunned? That means to be talked to like a child. I don't like to be talked to like a child. In that moment, she was doing that. And I'm like, oh, does she feel comfortable to do that because I'm staying at her place? Because if I wasn't, she wouldn't have all this mouth on her. like like these thoughts are coming in my head. Now, mind you, I'm sitting there calm, just taking it, listening to her. Like, you gotta do this. You can't just So I said, okay. She was like, I know a recruiter from a staffing agency. I'm gonna send them the email. You gotta follow up. You gotta. I said, okay. Y'all, in my head, I said July 31st, I'm out of here. I am out of here. I said, if I have to sleep in my car at Little Five Points, I will. Okay. If I have to drive my car and park it by the side of the highway on 285 just to sleep in my car, I'll do that. I don't like stuff like that, y'all. Mm-mm. I don't. I don't like stuff like that. I said, you know what, July 31st, I'm out of here. I don't care whether I have a job or not. I don't care. I'm out. So as she's talking and everything, I was like, okay, okay. And then I can see the attitude in her face too. I was like, okay, okay. Well, I made a mental note that July 31st I was out. So that was that. The next day was June 17th. Next day was June 17th. I actually reached out to one of my colleagues at Georgia State. We took a class together, me and her. We became cool. I was asking her, hey, if she had any job recommendations, if they were hiring at her company. So she was telling me that she doesn't really know. But she was giving me so much insight about her company and what they have going on. She's like, hey, maybe you can do this. It's a seasonal role, but I don't know if they're hiring for that role right now. And also, yeah, it was kind of difficult because the vid was going on. A lot of people were getting laid off or they were getting fired. So that was kind of like a hard situation for me too. It was just hard. It was just hard. So I'm just reaching out to her, and that day when Ruth came back, she was like, "Hey, did you apply to this role?" I said, "Yeah, I sent in my application." I said, "Yeah, I even reached out to my friend who works at such and such to see if she has any um, insight about job openings or whatever." I was like, I don't want to look like I'm not doing nothing, even though y'all, it wasn't really, yeah, it really wasn't in my control. It really wasn't in my control that I didn't have a job. So, that was that. So it kind of was going on for the first 3 days. It was kind of like she was monitoring me, like, "Hey, did you apply to a job? How many jobs did you apply today? Hey, did you do this? Did you do that?" I hate that. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate that. Oh, I hate it. Especially when it has to do with my business. Like, it's my business. It's and I felt like she felt comfortable doing that because I was staying with her. But I said, you know what? This is just. Now, something interesting that happened was the day after the conversation that you need to be there, you need to be there. The day after, I spoke to my mom, and the reason why I spoke to her is like, hey, mom, Ruth approached me about, me having to leave her place before school starts and, stuff like that. I got to be prepared to leave, right? So I basically just tell my mom the conversation me and Ruth had. And then I also expressed my feelings like, yeah, I don't like stuff like that. I don't like people being on my back. I don't like that. July 31st, I'm out. And then she was like, "Well, she calls him my middle name, which is Moni Lua. She was like, "Well, Moni, you can't expect her to not feel some type of way. Like you've been living with her since February." And to be honest, y'all, I was very grateful for her opening her apartment to me. And I remember when I first came in, that first 2 weeks, I asked her, I said, "Hey, how long do you plan on, having me stay with you?" And she said, "Until you find a job." And I said, "Are you sure?" She was like, "Yeah, until you find a job, you can leave." So that was a conversation we had back in February or early March. So when I saw her with this attitude, it was like, what? Now I understand, y'all. Me personally, I did not have plans to stay in her apartment for that long. It was just the attitude. I just didn't like it because you can say what you want to say without having an attitude. So at this point, it's like, I'm like, she really doesn't want me here. So my mom was saying that you can't blame her. You've been at her place since February. And I said, "Mommy, I'm not blaming her. It's just that I don't like to be talked to like that. Like I don't like that." And then my mom said, "It's interesting that the night before, the Holy Spirit told my mom to pray for me and Ruth to pray that me and her don't fight. And I said, "Oh, that's interesting." Because to be honest, y'all, I was kind of annoyed, but I was at the point where God had healed me from stuff and offense and just being mad at people, that I wasn't really taking things as personal. Because when she was talking to me, I really was sitting down quiet and just watching her as she was speaking to me. I wasn't really going to fight her. Like, I wasn't going to do that at all. So when my mom said that, I was like, wow, it really could have gone left too. Imagine if I did take it very, very, very personal. I probably would have, used my mouth. But I already said back in May that if for whatever reason Ruth wants me to leave her apartment, hey, I'm not going to be mad. I'm going to be super thankful and I'm going to leave. June 18. June 18, I'm at home or at Ruth's place by myself. I decided to go to Kroger. I decided to go to the Kroger that was close by, y'all. I get there, do the little shopping I had to do. I go out, put my stuff put my stuff in the car. Somebody approached me. I think somebody that was asking for money or something like that. Somebody approached me. So in my head, I said, you know what? After I put my stuff in the car, I'm going to head back into the store to meet this person, right? Y'all, as soon as I put my stuff in the car, I was approaching the store again with the cart. So I turned the car around, approaching the store. I see somebody. I was like, this person is very familiar. It's a guy, he's tall. He's walking. I'm like, yo, I feel like I've seen this person before. He turns to the side and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is Brandon's friend. Brandon's friend was going into Kroger. Now I was at the back, like way back. So when I saw him, I said, oh my goodness, that is Brandon's friend. So I pushed my cart all the way to the front of Kroger. The guy who was asking me for money, he wasn't even there anymore. I said, you know what? Let me go back. Let me go back into my car and leave. I go into my car. I leave. I get back to Ruth's apartment. I park my car. And I said, okay, let me add up what's going on. June 16, I'm crying out to God during devotion, saying that things need to change. My hope is being deferred, yada, yada, yada. That same night, Ruth tells me, basically, girl, you gotta leave. 2 days later, on the 18th, I see Brandon's friend going into the grocery store. So I'm like, okay, God, what are you doing? What's happening? Is a shift happening right now? Because I'm adding all of this together. And so I am going to stop the episode right here. I'm going to stop the episode right here. Next episode, I am going to finish up the month of June. And yeah. So if you are liking An Unlikely Story, please comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you in my next video.